Not live, coming from the fabulous Sunset Strip in Hollywood, California. It's the Bob Dean Show. Yay.
Terrific.
All right, we're going to talk really fast because the fucking Los Angeles traffic has made me half an hour late, which is cut into my guest's time. And thank you very, very much, Johnny Cosmo and Jennifur Diamond, for being here.
It's our pleasure.
I really, and we are broadcasting from the Ruby Studio at 7518 Sunset Boulevard, and I want to thank Samee and Joe for putting up. But Lucille the LeBaron is back on the road, y'all. You know, she caught on fire, and of course Dennis Alsin is here. Right. She caught on fire, and we picked her up today, and she's always good as new. So let's just get to the show. We have Jennifur Diamond is visiting. Let me give a little background on these two people real quick. Oh, first of all, I will be appearing at
Laugh Factory.
No, I will be at Flappers in Burbank.
Flappers?
Yeah, on Sunday for the Over 40 Funnies on July 15th, and you can purchase tickets now online. And I will be at the Ha Club on Lancashire in North Hollywood / Toluca Lake on Monday, the 23rd. So please come, because I'm reasonably amusing. Okay, now, Jennifur Diamond. I have been a bartender, everybody's knows, for 36 years. I've been at Wolfgang Steakhouse for 8. And I only knew Jennifur as to be this real hot blonde that was in with the in crowd. And I can sniff out a phony a mile away, meaning, you know, somebody that's going to be cool. And she was immediately on the A list. But I only found out recently that my dear friend of, 5 years now? At least 5 or 6 years, is a psychic. I had no idea. And the first thing I said to you was, Christ, I've been waiting on you for all this many years, and you've been reading my old pervy thoughts, and you just laughed and said, yeah, pretty much.
Why do you think I came to your shows?
Yeah. And then we have Johnny Cosmo, who is a bon vivant around Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. He's a very fabulous actor. We actually did a film together, in 2015, and it was It's My Decision, that was directed by Lydia Cornell. Who is a stunning woman, and those eyes are so piercing.
Yes, they are.
She's also a very kind and very talented woman. She plays on, a lot of you might remember the television show, not Full House.
Too Close for Comfort.
Too Close for Comfort, along with Ted, the late Ted, what was it, Bessel?
Oh, Ted Baxter? No, that was
Ted Knight. Ted Knight. I said Ted Bessel.
Mary Tyler Moore.
Right. Okay, anyway, or that girl. But at any rate... We did a film together, and you were also starred in another Ralph Ornier. I always pronounce it. Odierna, and he's a good pal of mine, but I always say Ralph. I pronounce it wrong. Guardian Angel.
Yeah.
Now, I was trying to think for the life of me, what was the award that you guys won?
Oh, he collected a whole bunch. I don't pay attention to film festivals. Once I did it, I just put it to rest, and then he just told me good news, and it went one ear and out.
Well, it was a great film. Yeah. I mean, it was very, very moving. So y'all look for Guardian Angel, and It's My Decision, and where I played Mr. Roberts in the background. You can't miss me, because I'm freaking fat as a cow. Anyway, so you guys have known each other. Okay, let's get down to you two. You are living in Miami again? Boca Raton. Is that where you're originally from? Because I know you said Buffalo.
Yeah,
no
Buffalo,
kidding. Isn't your mom in South Florida, though?
Father.
Your father.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I moved back.
That's why I was going to say, because I remember that you moved back. It was apparent, and I guess I had your mom and mine, but your dad's in Boca.
Yeah.
Boca. I love Boca.
Well, he's actually outside of Boca, but that's where I decided to move back, because I couldn't move to the retirement community.
Yeah, well, that's what most of Boca. I worked in a design art gallery at the Design Center in Dania, so I spent a lot of time. I was like the Anthony on Designing Women. I worked in a very cool modern art gallery, and a lot of the people from Boca that were retiring from New York, so I spent a lot of time.
So you know it well.
I know. Oh, I lived in South Florida collectively for 18 years. Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach. I had a little house in Dania.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, but it's great, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, no, it's great.
But you're originally from Buffalo, and then did you come to LA after that?
Yeah, so I moved from Buffalo to Boca Raton for 14 years, and then moved to LA in 2004 and was here for 12 years.
See, I moved in 2004 as well. My anniversary will be August the 4th. Is when I cruise into town in my Roadmaster station wagon, which I still have.
The wood panel with the wood paneling? Wood
paneling and the glass roof. She's for sale, too. She's really... then again, we decided to keep her because the way things are going, I might be living in it soon enough.
Oh, I like it. I like
Seat
it.
sign. Now, what time? When did you move to South Florida originally? What years?
1990.
1990. Okay, we would have crossed paths. I left in '94.
I didn't realize we were in the same areas for.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I moved there in '83 when I was young,
okay.
and then I moved back to Nashville, my hometown, or I call it my hometown. Then I moved back to South Florida, and then back to Tennessee. And then when everybody from LA started moving to Nashville, I swear to God, I was like, I'm getting out of here, because I'd always wanted to come to LA. But so it'll be 14 years.
But you like it now, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the fact that it's just so astronomically outrageous to live, but not just here. You know, I'm sure that Miami and
It's gone way
New
up.
York and San Francisco, it's crazy. You know, but anyway. So, and what about you, Johnny? What do you call home?
I've lived everywhere. I went to like 16 schools growing up, East Coast, West Coast, but most of my formative years are here in LA. And I met Jennifur with some friends when she bought a house. And she's petite and a psychic, which makes her a small medium.
That was a good
I've been
one.
sandbagging that since you said the Bob Bean Show. I couldn't wait to fit that in.
That was
We only have
good.
20 minutes left in the show. I squeezed it in just in the nick of time.
Yeah, I know that's my fault. So, but
like
what I'm going to ask you now before I forget is, I hope that you'll be a calling guest for us from Florida from time to time.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Well, and I'll be out here more frequently now. I have to be for work. So.
Excellent, please. So when you're in town, I hope that you'll make an appearance on the Bob Bean Show. Yeah,
Of course.
Yes, all right.
No,
So-
Bob, with me, you have to be more excited.
Jennifur, F-U-R, yeah, woohoo, baby. Look, so tell us, I looked on your interview this morning. Not your interview this morning, but I looked at this morning. My notes. Oh, yeah. It was a morning show. But you've written 2 books.
Yes.
Very successful books, The Top 50 Psychics and Mediums and Waking Up Psychic.
Yes.
Do you want to give us a little bit of, you were in a car accident when you were young.
Yes, I was.
Well, I mean, you're still young, but I mean in your early 20s.
Yeah,
correct?
I was barely alive. It was 1989. But yes, I was on vacation, and unfortunately, I was in a terrible car accident where a drunk driver hit my then fiance, and so we were both in the hospital for 2 weeks. He was in a coma. I was completely out of it. But when I woke up after the accident, I was able to see dead people. I'm giving you the short version, but so that was where the whole story changed, because up until that point, I lived a seemingly normal, boring life, I would say. But after that,
Cheerleader-esque, I would guess.
not really.
Oh, you're so hot.
Oh, you're so
But
sweet.
I'm so sorry about Tony.
Yes.
And but I can't imagine what that must have been like. I was in one of the interviews that I was watching. You said that when you woke up, you were after a brief period.
Yeah, about 30 hours I
Yeah,
wasn't
you-
awake.
Yeah, but you were able to. You knew a nurse's name, and
Yeah, so during the time that I wasn't awake, which was about a day and a half, I was able to see what was going on in the hospital room and the doctors and nurses coming in. But during that time, I had traveled to the other side, and I was able to see, so to speak, where we go from here. And that was kind of where the story began. So, and I talk about it briefly in the book, what it's like to have a near-death experience, and, you know, how crazy it is to be on the other side, so to speak. I always say, you know, this is hell, and where we go from here is happily ever after, so
well,
to
see,
speak.
that's fascinating because Sylvia Brown.
I met her.
Did you?
Yeah, I've met her before she died. I saw her like 6 months before she passed, but I'd met her on like 3 occasions.
Because I'd read a couple of her books years ago, and you were saying in that interview too, is that what was the word you used? When you can tell if somebody's a phony when they ask too many questions.
Intuition?
Well, what was the?
A fake psychic.
No. You call collateral. Well, at any rate, I'll think of the word. But the hostess,
I call them charlatans.
charlatan. That's the word.
Because they are. I mean, you know, for me, when I give readings to people, which happens all the time, I can tell a lot more about a person that I know nothing about. The more I get to know you, I think partly it has to do with I block a lot out. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Bob. But
I'm used
because
to it.
I see things, you know. So when I meet people for the first time, or when I've done a few radio shows and people call in, at first I got nervous because I thought, God, will I have any thing to tell them, but I actually have a lot more to tell people when I don't know them, and two, when I am just talking to them on the phone, because I'm able to pick up energy. And I can talk to people that not only are passed away, but are still here. If you've got a crazy mother or brother or sibling, I can pick up on their energy too. But the thing is, with people that really have a gift, you can't pick and choose the information.
It's just
At least I
whoever
don't.
wants to come to you or whatever. Is it like, I mean, is it like what we see on on television where somebody will just appear to you? Let me ask you this. Do you see them in full form?
It's both. It depends on the person that I'm reading for, how the other person wants to come through, whether they're alive or not alive. A lot of times I hear them, I can clearly hear them, and a lot of times I can see them. So it's a combination of both. And I think for me, it just depends on how they want to come through for the person that I'm reading for. Oftentimes when I'm reading for people, I don't make eye contact with them because I'm too busy listening to what the other person's messages are. So
It's fascinating. I ran a haunted bar on Mount Miami Beach for some time, and that's these two young women came in one afternoon, and they were sitting at the end of the bar, and they were just your basic cool beach chicks, and it was early, so there was nobody else in there, and I was probably smoking a Marlboro and on my third shot of tequila. But the one woman said, "Is this bar?" She said, "This bar has spirits, doesn't it?" And I'm like, "Well, some say it does." And she could see, and her friend could hear.
yeah.
And she was like that, and I knew the history of the spirits because it was a murder that happened it was a very ugly murder that happened in 1985. But I got to talk to witnesses, and so I had a full description of the psychic was saying she loves you, she loves me because I love the bar, and she would follow me around everywhere. And she had described her as being a one-dimensional, like she could see her, but then if she turned, she'd disappear. But then if she turned around, she could see like her back kind of thing.
Sometimes I get those visions, but I've seen all sorts of stuff, and it's been so many years for me now. It's been 29 years, so the way I am now, the whole approach I give it is I try to tune out a lot of things because it can be mentally draining.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, what was like I'm sure that you get asked this all the time, but I'm going to ask anyway. What was the first time that you really like? What was the is there, shall I rephrase it, an incident that sticks out in your mind that was like you were really like maybe frightened or you realized what that, because you said you knew the nurses' names, and I'm sure you were confused about that, but the first time maybe somebody came to you?
Well, so what happened was I went from not being awake, and what I describe in my book is talking to God.
For what, 30 hours, you
About
said?
30 hours I wasn't awake. I was in a coma, so I was not, completely out. But I was able to give specific conversations that went on with the doctors and nurses. Some of it funny. It was funny to me. It wasn't funny to them that they knew I knew what was going on. But so what happened was, as soon as I woke up in the hospital, which wasn't like you wake up from a nap, it was a slow transition because I still could see what was going on the other side, and it was like I was making a slow transition back into my body. Well, what happened was the people that I saw on the other side that I was clearly communicating with, like we're sitting here talking, as soon as I started to wake up, and the doctors and nurses came in and they realized I was awake and they're talking to me, it was very traumatic. And I didn't want to talk because I was trying to make kind of the transition from there to back into my body. And I looked in the corner of my room, like as much as I can see you, there was a woman standing there that I knew was passed on because I was just talking to her a minute ago. So making that kind of transition, trying to figure out what was going on, that it happened to me immediately from waking up. And so it just snowballed from there. The first month was very hard for me because in 1989 we didn't have computers or Google or, I didn't know what was going on. So I thought I was schizophrenic to some degree, And
Frightening.
it was very frightening. And I went from sleeping, after my accident, I went from sleeping about 21, 22 hours a day to all of a sudden, within the matter of one day, sleeping like 2 to 3 hours a day.
No kidding.
Yeah, from the dramatic, post-traumatic stress. So it was difficult. And then seeing and hearing dead people from, that point on, it was, I fell into a deep depression for a long time. But a lot of it had to do with that, and a lot of it had to do with losing my boyfriend as a result of the accident. But moving ahead, over the years, of course I, sometimes use it to my advantage, but I try to give everybody because I do oftentimes have the upper hand when I'm talking to people. So I try to give everybody the same respect I'd like with privacy and stuff.
Of course.
But when people get out of hand, sometimes I'll, throw them a little zinger, so to speak.
So can you do a private reading for us another time?
I can, yeah, absolutely.
I would love that.
With you, I can do them anytime.
Well, and the whole point about it, though, is that, like I said, if you're reading my mind right now, I can't believe you're not slapping me.
No, I think it's great. Are you kidding me? You're
Can't go to jail for what you're thinking, Pally.
Yeah, but you're.
I'm thinking about
believe
fame
me,
and fortune and success. No.
I see all types of stuff. So.
I don't know. It's just it's so fascinating. And another like in Sylvia Browne's book, she always talked about I don't know if she worded it as heaven, but the afterlife and how wonderful it is.
Can't even compare. I mean, it really is. The minute your soul leaves your body, the minute you flatline, you pass away, whether you have a near death and you come back, the minute you're out of this body, there's no more pain, anxiety, stress,
gingivitis, gone.
Gas.
I'm guessing. You're this.
But that's exactly. But seriously, that's the way I have comfort from losing. I lost both my parents, and I've lost friends and that sort of thing. But I have real comfort. I miss my parents daily.
Well, yeah, because your mom's always around.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say always around, because I never saw her in the bar. But since you walked in, she's been around.
Really?
Yeah, and she's like a piece of work.
She really.
Yeah, obviously I don't know who she is, but she's a real piece of work. But I've never, in all the, like you said, we've known each other like, 5-6 years?
Yeah.
So when I've seen you out, I've never seen her around. But in here, she
Really?
has a lot to say, yeah.
Does she?
Yeah, she finds it, she kind of lives vicariously through you because she still likes to have one foot over here, which is rare. I can't say that to everybody. When people pass on, they like to go because over there is great. But, she kind of finds you very humorous and you're entertaining to her. So she likes to stick around once in a while.
Thank you for telling me that because she hung around. She passed away in our family home. And which I have not.
Was she real attractive woman?
When she was young,
yeah, I
she was smoking hot.
Yeah,
she and my dad were both.
Well, she is now.
Because she's young. Because she's.
Well, she comes through how she wants me to be able to
yeah,
describe
no,
her
she
to
was.
you. But
She was. I'll show you pictures sometime. She was stunning.
Really.
And my dad and she and my had this. It's a crazy love relationship. I'll tell you about another time. My mom was engaged to my dad's best friend, but she would not leave the Greek Orthodox Church to become Catholic. So. They broke up, and then my dad swooped in and swept her heart away a couple of years later. And it was and they had lots of problems and that sort of thing. But he called her babe because she was just, it was like va va voom when you look at these pictures of her.
Yeah, because she's attractive from what I can see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she was, or is. But she hung around. What I was saying is that she died peacefully in bed, and I was living with her in Nashville. I moved back because Dad had passed, and she just didn't give a crap about much anything. But she hung around for at least a month with, and I had read things like where I'd pull in the driveway and the master bedroom, of course, had been cleaned and this and that. And I went in there once a week just to flush the commode. But I would pull in the driveway after storms and every light in the master bedroom would be on. And I had read somewhere where, like in the old movies where it's, the thunder and lightning and the spirits come, it's because they come through electricity.
It's an easy way for them to come through.
Yeah.
And you'll find coins. They like to do that too. And feathers. I don't know why, but yes, those are ways that they come through. Have you seen a feather?
He found a feather in the apartment just
yeah,
the
that's
other
what
day.
she said. She's saying yeah.
What does she think of him? No.
She thinks the same that you think of him.
Because he can spell. Is my partner.
Big plus.
Well, okay. I don't want to leave Johnny out of this. I don't.
I'm fine.
He's the most entertaining.
Or Dennis, because Dennis never says peep anyway. But
hi, Dennis.
But
Hello.
John, you're a customer at my bar.
Yeah.
What was my question going to be about the film that we did together? You played yourself in that movie.
And the one that you were, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The one that I was in. But you know what's really neat too about 6 Degrees of Separation, because this really is a pretty small town, is that at that same thing, I got to meet Tabitha.
Yeah.
From Bewitched. She wasn't.
you
She ended up on the cutting room floor, but she was a delightful Erin Murphy. She was really cool, but she was supposed to be an appearance. But it was just neat, and
Yeah, that worked out great. We did 2 movies at Carmine's over there, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great. You go to Carmine's? I love Carmine's.
Yeah, I used to live in Century City, so right down Avenue of the Stars, that would have been, and then later I discovered a little more Dantana's, so I go over there now.
I can only. Where do you live?
Right now, I'm Sunset and basically La Cienega.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Dantana's. I love Dantana's, but I can only go in there after I've already been hitting the town. I can't go in there like after work and I'm stone cold sober because Dantana's, for you ladies and gentlemen, it's like the coolest spot in West Hollywood. It's been there since like 50 years. It's a little Italian restaurant. Food is great. Everybody that works there is great. The bar seats, about 10?
Yeah, but 12 seats. Why do you like to have a couple of belts in you before you walk in? Because I understand.
Because everybody's already.
Yeah.
Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? You know exactly what.
Yeah.
It's
It's home of the bear hug after 9 o'clock
exactly.
at night.
Hey, it's like I don't want to sit there and try and catch up really fast like glug glug glug. But if we've been out dancing or have been to dinner somewhere else or whatever, it's like Dantana's. You got to stop.
I like to start out there.
Oh, really?
Well, see, that's all another thing too. Is if you get there early and start out.
Yeah.
Because we're going to a party tomorrow night. Cindy Bell from
Cindy.
You know Cindy.
Yeah, of
what are you
course.
doing tomorrow night?
Tomorrow's 4th of July.
4th of July.
I bet she knows she can look into the future.
Rockets in flight.
We're going to Wendy and Ken have this great party. They live in that high rise on over here in West Hollywood, and everybody goes up to the roof to watch fireworks, and they have a marvelous party in there.
I don't know. What are we doing?
I don't know. I'm
in
not a big holiday guy.
I'm not either. But these people, they just throw an epic party every 4th of July and Christmas Day, and it's just really a fun place to be. And Cindy Bell from Craig's, we always go, and so we're going to pick her up and have cocktails first in my convertible that came back today. Yay! And then go to the party. So if you're not doing anything, everybody's welcome.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'll give you directions after the show.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, this is so cool. I'm just so all right. Now, are you working on any projects now, John?
No, I'm doing voiceover. I do voiceover stuff for corporate folks who do videos and promotional stuff and branding, and so they want footage of their whatever it could be, their scientific equipment, things like that. But that's the only act. I MC corporate events, but that's more corporate. But no, I'm not auditioning or anything. It's hard, I travel a lot. And the last thing you want to do is get an agent and then put about 17 blackout dates on the calendar for the month.
Right.
It's like, well, what the hell? Why would you ever? I don't know. In case I, so nothing active for me. I enjoy it. It's passion projects for me. It's not a
Well,
lifestyle.
that's great that because you're a very talented guy.
Thank you.
And you've worked your way into a position where you can just do what you want to do, more or less, right?
Well, I believe in having as many irons in the fire. In this economy and in this world that you're in, if you don't figure it out digitally and other ways you can leverage yourself, the days of joining IBM and for 30 years and getting a gold watch and a party, forget that.
Right. And see, that's just it, is that I have zero interest in technology and doing that sort of thing. I know that every day I got to get up and do something, and that's why these two handle the Bob Dean Show. Yay.
Yay.
But I can't. I don't have the patience. I sit down in front of the computer.
Delegate. You're doing the right
God,
thing.
I can't do it.
Yeah, no. Get good people on your team that know, Frank Sinatra never wrote a song and couldn't play an instrument, right? So, but he had bands and writers, and he had everything else around him. And his job was doing what you do. He knew his place, and he just surrounded himself with other talented folks.
Yeah. Well, Joe, by the way, thank you for the clips. They're great. I hope that you can do some more in the future. I've sent them to. There's a new search engine that's coming out called ZooBubble.
What's that?
It's called ZooBubble.com, and it's a search engine for goods and services. And the fellow that comes in, Julian Spatari, he comes into the restaurant like once a month, and he's a fine fellow this is his baby, and he's got other people coming. I don't like to name jinx things, but it's a new search engine that's just getting ready to be launched. So check me out. He was kind enough to. I'm like the second thing when you Google it, and my clips from the Bob Dean Show, yay. And so my stand up and that sort of thing is on it. So who knows, But I mean, that's something that I'm in, But as far as like, I don't have the patience to try and do any of that stuff. I really need to learn how to do it. I still don't know the difference between save and save as, and I use that in my act, and it's lame, but it's true.
It's all good.
I can't help it, man. I hate the damn computer.
Yeah, well,
Well, I'll tell you the difference
Yeah,
between
please.
save and save as.
Yeah, please.
Well, no, off mic. I don't want to just give it. I don't want to give it away.
You don't know either.
There would go my consulting gig I have on the side. That's right. My specialty is save as.
You know what else I hate? Cell phones.
You do?
I hate them because they're so overwhelming. And if I learn how to use mine, and now, of course, I love it because when you go to the Stitcher app on your Android or to iTunes on your iPhone, you can listen to the Bob Dean Show. Yay. Or watch it on YouTube. So I do love that part. But it's like, it just gets on, I honestly, it's a Clockwork Orange effect. It's like, I can't go to concerts because I've been a bartender for 36 years and I've worked in the dumpiest places where they'll kill you over a pool cue to the hottest restaurants. And in Miami, I did nightclubs and the crowds around. I just don't like to be around crowds. And I believe it's a Clockwork Orange effect for me because I've been behind the bar and it's gotten to the point where literally 7 out of 10 people have a phone in their face.
When you say the Clockwork Orange, you mean conditioning?
It's getting. I just see it all the time, and for some reason, I just want to go, ugh,
What you mean? You associate all that with negative?
Yeah, I do.
Experiences.
I do. For some, and I. It's just like I mean, they're wonderful devices, but if I learn how to use one, I know I'm going to be just like everybody else. I'll be pushing a baby carriage out in Santa Monica Boulevard while I'm looking at a phone.
Yeah. Well,
But they're such a wondrous tool,
Well, they're not. They're not just talking on the phone and BSing. I mean, they're looking up words on dictionary.com. They're doing their Facebook. They're looking at the weather. They're reading the news feeds and what's breaking. So it's no different, I guess, than keeping a book, a newspaper, or television.
I
handy.
disagree. I mean, I think there's a big difference as far as like at least with a newspaper, at least for me, like reading a newspaper. As much as it's all Gannett owned and operated in the same propaganda as anything else, but at least when I'm looking at a newspaper, I can focus on one thing that will lead me to, from editorial to obituaries to the front page to the comics.
Sure.
And when I try and look something up online, you get 3 sentences into the story, and then these pop-up ads come up, and I don't know.
It's an assault on the senses.
Exactly, and it just makes me want to say, forget it. I don't want to scroll and read.
You ever notice, Bob? By the way, maybe you have some insights. If you ever go through the obituaries, people die in alphabetical order, which I think is nature's way, right? If you ever had to call upon the guy, you go A, B, C, D, Dorfman. Let's look up Grandma Dorfman. It's just to help people like her. Well, you think
They're
about
all
it.
the same for me.
We're going to the same joint afterwards. One of your martinis.
But obituaries are really interesting sometimes too, because it's like, wow, these people have achieved. I don't know. There's just so many people in the world, and you get to talk to all of them.
I get to talk to all of them all the time.
Have you had a favorite? Maybe a favorite spirit or person or entity that's come to you that has just been, entertaining, charming?
A lot of people are. And the things that stick out to me are like probably in 29 years, probably the 3 or 4 Jeffrey Dahmers that I came across. Those scared me. One of them, and it was actually, I edited it out of my book, Waking Up Psychic. I did talk about it through one of the chapters, but I took it out. It was somebody that I had been out with a bunch of girlfriends in Fort Lauderdale. My girlfriend had been hanging out with this guy all night, and I told her not to. And short end of the story is the next day, this was back in I think it was like 94, 95. The next day, he was on America's Most Wanted. He had broken out of a Mexican prison, and he had killed like 3 people.
My goodness.
Yeah. So we had seen him on a Friday night, and I just knew. I kept trying to warn her about him, and she was like, she wasn't hearing any of it. But it was him. The next day, they showed his picture. He was gone, and it was funny because America's Most Wanted was on, 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. So the next day at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're having lunch, 5 of us, and she's like, this girlfriend of mine's like, can you believe this jerk hasn't called me? And I was like, and then that night was when we saw him on there. It was like, well, he's got...
He had an excuse.
He's got things going on right now.
He won't be calling.
Have you ever had any children that you've spoken with? Or
I have. So last summer I did a gallery. I went to the Hamptons, and I did a room full of 20 women, I think 18 or 20 women. And for whatever reason, about 7 or 8 of the women that were at this event I was doing, had lost children in the last like few years. And that was really hard for me because a couple of them, one woman stuck out. I still remember because she was having a really hard time of it. She had lost her 17-year-old son like 6 months earlier. And so, all these kids through the different people that I read for that night, they all came through and they all had different messages and they didn't all pass away the same way. One was cancer, one was suicide, one was, two of them were a car accident. But it was hard for me to read for a parent. It always is that has lost a child, But I know it helps them because they get messages that are only unique to them. But that's never easy for me.
What about like John Edward? Remember he had that big show for a long time. What do you think about him?
So here's the thing. I get asked this question all the time when people are on TV or like Teresa Caputo, Long Island Medium. The thing is, if I'm going to go and do a large event with a few hundred to a few thousand people, it's hard. First off, because sitting in the room that we're in right now, there's there's 6 of us in here. And for me, it sounds like as if you're in the middle of Grand Central Station right now. That's how much noise I hear. So I have to tune a lot out. If I'm doing a big event, there's a lot of people that come in that want it. I hear so much chatter. So oftentimes they do pick things out of a hat. They kind of use whoever it is, their producers or whatever information they're using. I don't want to say all of them. I'm not pinpointing anybody, but when you're doing these big events, it's kind of hard to sit down with people just randomly out of the audience and give them a message. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think over time, for the sake of TV and time constraints, they have to limit it. And so for me, if somebody's telling me, okay, hurry it up, I can't really do that,
That makes sense.
If a spirit wants to come through, I can't tell them to, hurry up. But for TV, they have to do that. So, but I do think, like John Edwards, he's been around. I think he's been doing it. I think since he's 14 or 15, like publicly. And I do know people that know him from the East Coast, and he's talented. So is Teresa. But when you're in the public eye, it takes a different turn.
Well, Teresa Caputo, she's the one that I think I've seen in years past where she would she had some sort of show where she would just walk up to somebody on the street, and be like, "Hey, your sister is saying hi," or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. And
Do you ever have any? Have you ever had the need to say to a stranger, like, I don't want to sound like I'm a cuckoo bird, but your brother is here, something like that?
Yeah, well, from 19...
Like if you were in a restaurant or in shopping or something like that?
Yeah, so from 1989, after the accident, till 2015 was when my book came out. So from 89 to 2015, I never talked about it to my friends and family. Maybe a couple people knew, but I kept it very private. I never spoke about it. I came from a Catholic family. You're not supposed to talk about psychic phenomena, psychic, abilities, all that. So for all those years, I would give readings to complete strangers all the time because somebody was coming through and it was just too hard not to say anything. And oftentimes it was messages that they needed to hear or whatever. And then a lot of times I'd run into these people again, from living in the same area. So yeah, I would more times than not talk to strangers. So for me, for the last 3 years now, it's kind of like anybody will talk, like yourself or Ken or, my girlfriend, Saka. I can give readings to people I know, but I get more information for people I don't know or haven't met before. I think I like to tune out some stuff,
Well, I would like for you to give us a reading at some point, not together, but
Whenever you want.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And am I supposed to call you Ken? I've been calling you John. I know
Johnny
your
You can
Cosmo.
call
name
me
is
Johnny
Ken.
Cosmo. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because, I generally just stick my foot in my mouth all the time anywho.
Listen.
But no, because I knew that we were Ken, but I've been calling you Johnny Cosmo.
That's right. That's the stage name.
Yeah. It's all good.
It's all good. I'm having such a good time. Well, how much time do we have? It's my fault.
Yeah, you were a little late.
I was late last week, too. I know. Sammy's
So do
over
you
there
do
going,
shows with call-in then?
What we normally do is we don't, because we pre-record, so we can't really do a call-in, right? That's why we don't do call-ins, because we pre-record.
Yeah, I mean, we could like tell people
You can
to call at a certain time, but
Okay, so if next time she's in town, we could do that if we set it up in time, and I'm not tardy. Yeah, because normally what we do is, I'll call out to an old friend from college or high school or, Miami or whatever. But no, now that we have this really cool studio, that I was being sarcastic when I said, yeah, let's go to Hollywood. It's this damn traffic. But anyway, that's what I was like. But the point being is, the next time you're in town, would you guys both come back?
Anytime.
So we have time to do it, and we're going to get Theodora out there in here too.
Oh, that'll be interesting. I can't wait for that.
Teddy's great. We're talking about you, Teddy.
She's the best.
She is the best.
She's hiding behind the door, though.
Well, I'm sorry that we didn't have, another seat, but she'll be on next time because I just think she's groovy. And there's a lot, and it's like I said, at my bar, if I'm like this to you, well, hi, nice to see you. Then it's like, oh, Christ. But if I'm like, just a minute, I'll be right there. What do you want? Same old thing? Then that means I love you.
That's good to know. I'm glad I got the memo on that one. I was starting to wonder.
But I've been, oh no, what, you? No, you're aces. You're so low maintenance. You don't even like fruit.
Johnny Cosmo's always sugar sweet to me every time I see him.
I'm afraid to
How
be
long have you guys
cruel
been
to a
friends?
person who can, since 2005.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So
she
long
bought
time.
a house from a mutual friend of ours. And we all ended up at lunch one of these lazy Fridays. It probably a group of 8 to 10 day drinkers.
Oh,
And,
the best time of day.
She had her hair was up in a ponytail, and so she became my dream of Jeannie. That was her nickname. Whenever she wasn't in the room, but wherever she was from, I'm sure she could hear us. And it came to her in a dream, and I got to rat it out. So we've been, and then she moved. So obviously, it's just kind of Facebook. But when she's in town, we all go to the same watering holes, as you know, right?
Yeah. Well, you guys come into my spot.
Yeah.
I really don't get out a whole lot. I've been on the wagon for 6 weeks because I know I'm going to blow it out tonight and tomorrow. Seriously, I do the same thing before Christmas too. You got to come to my Christmas Eve party, dude. It's the best.
Where is it?
It's at my humble abode on Stoner Avenue. It's the Happy Birthday Baby Jesus Cocktail Soiree. If you're in town, you got to come too. It's a blast. Teddy's been there before. And
What do you call it? A happy birthday, Jesus? What?
Baby
Happy
Jesus.
Birthday Baby Jesus Cocktail Soiree.
A cocktail.
And Teddy's been there. I think she's been a couple of times. And my apartment is this teeny tiny little dump, but we foster animals, and I got 3 really cool cars, but a dumpy apartment, but it's rent controlled in a great neighborhood.
Can I have
so
a Jack Daniels and
blast
she'll
it.
have the frankincense and myrrh?
Yep. Listen, I cooked for 3 days, man.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
good.
2 years ago, at like 1 o'clock
Bring
in the
your own
morning,
manger.
somebody's like, what's burning? And I go, and I'm like, because I do smoke inside my apartment, and then I'm like, oh, it's that $160 prime rib roast that I shoved in the oven and forgot about. This year, I forgot to put the prime rib roast in the oven, so it was my neighbor's refrigerator.
So there
downstairs.
aren't 3 wise men and a virgin at these parties.
There's a lot of wise guys,
I will text you.
and I doubt there'll be any virgins, but I know.
Turn on the oven, for Christ's sakes.
Well, you guys, we have to wrap this up. You guys got to go, don't you?
Yeah, we got to
But it's been
Talk
a
to her.
pleasure.
Listen,
about a horse.
Thank you so much for coming on the Bob Dean Show. Yay! Please come back and see us anytime. Just let me know in advance, and I'll bump whoever's on. And you guys come
Promise?
back on. Yeah, because I didn't give you Dennis hasn't even chimed in because I've just been going on and on. But next time you're in town, please let me know, and we're
let
going to
you
get
know.
you back in here. Please, you guys, subscribe to the Bob Dean Show and tell your friends on iTunes. You can listen on your Stitcher app if you have an Android phone like myself. You can go to my website, bobthesurlycomic.com. We want to give a shout out to Zach Herndon in Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, Zach.
He's part of our original crew here, and he helps put things on my website because I don't know how to do it. And you can now watch us, courtesy of Joe White, on YouTube. Okay?
Yay.
So please rate, review, like, and all that good stuff. And anything else we need to mention? You gonna be anywhere that you want people to come see or anything coming up?
Just home later, but I don't want anybody coming over.
Yeah. Don't come to my house either. All right, listen, I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming to the show. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Samee and Joe. And until next time, thanks for listening and watching The Bob Dean Show. Yay.
Nice work.
Bob Dean.